What is up, guys? Welcome on back to TK's Garage. And this, I know someone's going to get mad because I said this, but I told you so. I told you guys this shit, man. We talked about this well over a year, maybe a year and a half ago at this point, that Brampton was going to be closed for good. The second that I saw them selling the property around the plant and the fact that they had cut, 15 or 20 more employees, that was kind of like the final straw, right? It's not one thing that happened that caused it, but we're going to get into not just Brampton, but is Windsor next? Because the information that I heard this morning from my sources at the board of directors, these are the people that make the decision on whether or not they stay in a country, whether or not they move, not specifically on products. Yes, they get that information, and that's how I get stuff early. But these members on the board are talking about abandoning Canada completely. And the way that it's going with tariffs makes a lot of sense. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this. Guys, before we get into today's video, got to talk about the giveaway that's going on the channel. The extra entries for the Ram TRX are closing out in terms of the 500KX entries over on the tool site at some point this afternoon. I believe it'll be like around 1:30 Pacific, 2:30 Pacific. You'll see the site will update and change. They will be gone, but have no fear. You're not going to get those same amount of entries. But for those that were asking for different packages and things to be up on the merch side so they can combo it with a hat or shirt or something along those lines, there will be some offers and things posted that are specific to the TRX over on the merch side of tksgarage.com. The 1000X multiplier is up for the first 5 orders. That is up now. Once that's gone, that's it. And there is a 1500X multiplier, but I think there's only 2 of those remaining for the Adidas TK's Garage hat, which will multiply any of your previous entries by that amount. Now, the Ram 2500 is closing out in the next 48 hours. If you want to get in on that truck, there are some extra entry offers that are still up over on the merch side. But they are selling out. They have been closing out. And I believe there's 1 of the combo entries remaining at the time of me recording this video on the merch side as well that could get you in on both at an insane amount of entries. But that said, if you want to get in on either truck, you can go check out all the different offers that are available at tksgarage.com. Link in the description down below. All right, so let's get into this. Look, Brampton holds a special place in my heart only because, that's when my Green Monster was built. That's when my B5 Blue Red Eye was built. Both of my Challengers that I've had, I know came out of that facility. And a lot of you guys that have those old school Chargers, the King Daytonas, the old Super B, the purple Super Bs, right? Those cars came out of Brampton, Canada. And when the Charger and, when that L platform shut down, was it LX, whatever, when that L platform shut down and they, said that they were going to bring, the Jeep Cherokee there or the Jeep Compass or something. Yeah, I think it was the Compass, right? They were going to build there. But now, because the Dakota has been moved to Toledo and now they've moved the Compass over to Belvedere. Damn, I couldn't think of the name. Brampton, too many B's. To Belvedere. Now Brampton is stuck with no product. Now Stellantis did try to save Brampton. I will give them credit. They did try to do their, drop that Chinese EV that they had there in the partnership that they had in the Brampton plant to release that vehicle there. And the Canadian government said no. So now Stellantis has notified them and notified Unifor, which is the equivalent of UAW in Canada, to say, hey, that's it. We're letting you know our intent to shut the plant down and sell the remaining parts of the plant. Now, I told you guys way back when I saw them selling parking lots and other property around it, that was a wrap. It was 100% a wrap. And as soon as I started to see the tariff stuff coming down from the president towards Canada, I knew it was a wrap. Now, before you Canadians get into my comments, and look, I have lots of friends that are Canadians, man, mostly from Alberta, though, because they have some fucking common sense. But I have a lot of friends that are Canadians, all right? I don't hate on Canada. Grew up playing hockey all my life. Love it in Canada, okay? But your government is retarded. You're picking a fight with a country that is your number one trade partner. It's not even close. Like, I know you're going to say, oh, well, China. Yeah, China's number 2. We're $400 billion of your economy. China is 72. China's going to pick up 330 billion in slack to make up the 400 billion. Or they're going to pick up that 400 billion all on their own? No, absolutely not. So, yes, I'm not going to tell you whether the trade deal that the United States is offering you is fair. I'm not going to say that there's not trade imbalances. But if I'm keeping it a buck and looking at the actual way some of the things that Canada sends across the border is, yeah, there's trade imbalances. And unfortunately for you guys, this president is a business guy and he's not playing those fucking games. He's told you that shit is a wrap. And you have another guy who's a hedge fund guy, right? Who's now your prime minister, who loves it in the United States. But is literally like, you have a deal in place and then you back out at the last second because you want to change shit. Look, that's not how deals get done. And your prime minister knows better. Does, 100%. And it's going to cost you jobs. And it's probably going to cost your economy to collapse. And it's probably going to make things really hard in Canada for a while. And as much as Carney says he doesn't want you to become the 51st state, there's going to come a time where, Alberta's going to leave. That's what funds most of the shit in your country, your energy sector. And if Alberta does leave and becomes friends with the U.S., you don't think the United States is not going to put military assets up there? They will, 100%. And then that whole West Coast quadrant over there, British Columbia, that's gone too. And then you'll see Alaska and all that shit will be connected, and the rest of that will be over there. Now, I know you're going to say that's drastic. Never going to happen, TK. Don't say never. Your country goes bankrupt or gets into a point where they have problems money-wise, or they start instituting austerity measures. 48%, they said, of your young people already have expressed interest in joining the United States. So you have all of that bullshit going on, right? And I told you back then that Brampton, with all of that shit going on, that Brampton was never reopening. I said it. I called that shit well over a year ago. So yeah, I know it's an I told you so video, but I'm not being a dick to be like, haha, I told you so. Because this isn't like a, hey, new cars coming out. This is awesome. I told you so. This sucks. This just cost a lot of people their jobs. And Branton, which is already a shithole, by the way, if you've never been there, just go, is going to get worse now. Because those people that were waiting to see if the jobs are going to come back, they're going to get out. There's no reason for them to stay or be anywhere around that shit now. They'll leave. So what does that mean for Windsor? Well, this new 50% tariff is going to increase the price of what it costs to build that car, which already ain't selling, by around close to 19%. Now, who's going to eat that cost? Stellantis? Yeah, they're going to have to when they import them across the border, right? But eventually it's going to get reflected in the price. But here's the difference. Nobody's paying what the MSRP is on the Charger 6-pack now. That's why I think we're seeing the rapid move to get these new engines in these platforms, aka V8s, because nobody wants to buy this other shit. And the board of directors now also knows it. But I will give the French and the Italians credit that are on that board of directors. They can agree on one thing. They all like money. And they don't want to see the company fail. Now, I don't know where the stock is right at this moment, but I know last night when I looked at it before I went to bed, it was at $5.15, and that sucks. Sucks. Like down, 30% in the last 6 months, 50% in a year. Oof. The board of directors isn't dumb. They're not going to sit around and wait for this stock to go to $2 or $2.50 or whatever, waiting to get that done. The message has already been sent. Antonio Filosa knows it. They're ramping up V8 production across everything. Timetables on everything have been moved up. In the video I did previously today, we weren't supposed to see anything from the Jeep Grand Cherokee in terms of a new motor until after the start of the 2028 model year. Now they're starting with the brand new motor in the 2028 model year. That might seem like not a big deal to you, but the fact that they're already communicating this to the union means that they're going to push this up fast. Now, what does that mean for Windsor Assembly? If the tariffs hold and Canada doesn't acquiesce to whatever the president is asking and their trade representatives, Windsor Assembly will be closed probably within a year at max. They will move the Chrysler Pacifica across the border to probably Mack or Warren. It wouldn't surprise me. And they will move the Charger back across the border to the U.S. Now, I've heard that the Charger could go to Mexico, that the Charger could go down to Saltillo, which would be stupid, but I get it because they've done V8 testing on those cars down there. So they must have something to be able to do something down there. But I think that car would be better served if it was built here in the U.S. Just me, being honest about that. Because who's to say that there's not and the board of directors said this on a call recently, who's to say that the president doesn't get into a pissing contest with, whoever's in charge in Mexico in the next 6 months or a year, and then they're facing the same thing. There's already contingency plans to finally move heavy-duty truck production to the United States if need be, and they can do it in a rapid succession. Now, I told you, tooling and moving a product to a factory takes time. It's not something they can do in like 3 months, but 6 months, yeah. If they really rapidly excelled to get it done 6 to 8 months, they could do it. They could. It would be very difficult. It would be extremely expensive, but they could do it. And you're going to see you're going to see a company like Stellantis do this because it's like, am I going to, yes, okay, the 7-Eleven down the street from my house is selling premium gas at $5.30 a gallon, right? But there's a Shell up the street, and I get 20 cents off from my T-Mobile business account from T-Mobile Tuesdays, and I'm paying $5.05 a gallon. Am I going to save that 30 cents on 21 gallons? Yeah, I'm going to save that 30 cents. And you're going to say, well, it's really not that much money, TK. It's not. Yeah, it ends up being significantly less money the more you scale out, the more you build. And that around 19% extra cost that they're going to pay to build these in Windsor, it's not worth doing business in Windsor. And that, not saying that just the loss of the auto sector for Stellantis in Canada would devastate Canada, just in terms of jobs. And before you guys get all high and mighty and talk shit from you guys north of the border, don't get it twisted. If you guys were the 51st state in the United States, you'd be last. Right now, the state that makes the least amount of money in the United States is Mississippi. Yeah, you'd be last. People in Mississippi would be making more money than what you guys make in Canada. That's pretty bad. Anyways, I want to know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below, especially my Canadian guys. Look, I don't have anything against you. I want to see you guys succeed. But the only way that happens is if your government has common sense. And poking the bear of your number one trade partner, not that smart. And it's not even close. It would be different if China was at like 280 billion of your economy. They're in the 70s, right? The United States is over 400, I think it's 420 something billion dollars of your economy. That's, oh my God, that's bad. That's so bad. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Give the video a big thumbs up if you like what I do. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, stay petty, my friends.